Hello world, I'm Diana. This is Southern Prohibition Brewing, and you're watching Brew Destiny. Southern Prohibition Brewing is located at the edge of downtown Hattiesburg, which itself is located on the edge of the country, being in southern Mississippi. SoPro started business in April of 2013. What makes Southern Prohibition really stand out is the wide variety of beer styles that they're brewing and trying out new things and changing up their menu pretty regularly. And everything they brew has a really high level of complexity, and you can tell they made it with care. Another great thing about coming to the tap room specifically is they have a pizza truck in the back that makes really great Neapolitan pizzas. So let's check it out. Hattiesburg, Mississippi at Southern Prohibition, where we have the opportunity to talk to Ben Green, the head brewmaster. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's Friday.
While preparing for coming to talk with you, we kind of tried to find some starting places for what is available, what people might know, but it seems like your origin story is a whole lot of like facts. Like in 2008, Quimby came here, in 2009 the building was bought, but there's not a whole lot of information on the motivation and sort of the driving forces.
Yeah.
So
I feel like the brewery's creation is very milestone related. So different laws changed at different times that allowed us to kind of open up and kind of grow our business and do new things. The main catalyst being the House bill that was passed to allow higher ABV beers into the state, and then later on, obviously, the tap room and homebrew law. So we've kind of grown as the legislation in Mississippi's kind of changed and allow us to grow. But in the beginning, there was not many breweries in the state. Yeah. The South is a little bit behind the rest of the country, and a lot of that has to do with the laws. That being said, people love beer. People in the South love beer. So politicians listen. Laws have been changed and progress has been made. So,
and I know you're not the one that really started this, but do you know why Hattiesburg for Southern Prohibition, or that was just where?
Yeah, well, so I'm from Hattiesburg. Like I said, we've got the campus here. I would say Hattiesburg was kind of the catalyst or the powder keg for a lot of the craft beer movement in the state. The Keg and Barrel had a lot to do with that. I brewed beer at the Keg and Barrel for a little bit before we actually started Southern Prohibition here as a production brewery. Raise Your Pints was, instrumental in getting a lot of the laws passed and kind of some of that stuff. A lot of those original members live in Hattiesburg.
Okay.
So I think that the city was ready for it. It's one of the bigger cities in the state. So I think when Quimby moved here and kind of saw kind of what was going on with the Keg and Barrel, and we all started kind of meeting each other and hanging out, and I think it just kind of made sense that this was the right place to do it.
Cool. What is the Southern Prohibition philosophy towards brewing? Like, I know that there's some amount of value in the traditional styles, but you also have some, like, you value the innovation of new beer. So how do you balance that with what you produce?
Absolutely. It's kind of one of those things where in the beginning I feel like we were brewing what we liked to drink. And I guess we kind of got lucky because it seems like other people were also liking what we were drinking. And now we've kind of moved into this other phase where, yes, experimentation is extremely important and pushing the envelope, because that's kind of what craft beer is about. So in order to, stay fresh and current and relative and grow the business, you have to kind of take some risk, and you have to experiment a little bit. But it's also really good to have really strong traditions as far as process is concerned, and basically building off old styles and kind of making them our own a little bit is awesome. And I think right now, currently, we're kind of seeing a resurgence of some some old world and old style beers. So, what started off with what other people liked and we liked is now kind of grown into, they're kind of growing with us a little bit too. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, the amount that you teach the customers here like about beer and styles just from having the different ones available, I think really makes for the whole community improving. So what is
Absolutely.
like really the process of like beer idea generation to the actual like production and selling? Like, do you all brainstorm together, you and all the rest of the brewers, or does one person just kind of like say this is our next thing? Or what is some of the top steps?
we definitely have open lines of communication. That's one of the bigger parts of my job is kind of product development and just kind of pushing the brand in that sense as well. So usually I map out about 3 months at a time.
Okay.
If it's a year-round beer or something new coming to the core, it might need a little bit more time. But yeah, as far as the most part, I am just kind of pulling stuff out of the back of my mind somewhere.
How often do you change some of the core ones? Like if there's something that you realize that you could change, do you just like make it a spin-off? Because you don't really want to change something that everyone does like, but if you see something better, does it just become its own beer?
Yeah, I mean, you really just kind of have to judge on a product basis what's going on. So we had a beer called Jack the Sipper. It was an ESB. It was a very well, kind of traditional made ESB, and we just stopped making it. We had a lot of lashback from different consumers, and we stuck to our guns. It was just something that we were kind of ready to move forward with.
Okay.
Another prime example is Devil's Harvest. So Devil's Harvest started out as a very different beer than it currently is.
Exactly.
We took a big leap, completely changed that beer, basically just kept the name. And that was one of the first beers we started with. So to say that we are scared to change something that should be a little bit concrete is a false statement.
Yeah.
We are all about, if it can be better, I think the consumer's going to understand that and be okay with it.
Okay.
Can't make everybody happy, but I think that everybody that was upset about Devil's Harvest in the beginning is probably happy with it now. So
That's true.
Some people are slow to change.
That being said, the Devil's Harvest is probably also one of the best looking like aesthetic beers. So do you work strongly with the people involved in the art? Like,
Yeah,
are you involved in the art?
Yeah, absolutely. So our artist is Matt Fallon. He's from New Orleans. We've been working together for 2.5, 3 years now.
Okay.
In the beginning, we were kind of going through artists pretty regularly. We kind of linked up with Matt, and we are trying to hold on to him as hard as possible. But yeah, me and him work very closely,
Okay.
bouncing ideas around. But he's awesome at what he does, and he really brings a lot to the artwork, which is really important to us, and
Yeah.
it kind of always has been since the beginning. So I might give him a beer name, and then we just kind of start bouncing things around. So.
How do you pick your specific hops and malts? Do you sort of consider this range of Southern Prohibition beers to have some kind of single continuity in flavor?
No, not necessarily. I think right now, we call all our IPAs IPAs. A lot of people are kind of a little later to the game, and they're like, hey, it's a hazy IPA or it's a New England IPA, and to that saying there are people doing those beers way before we were even doing them. We just call them IPAs now. So I guess the only general consensus on some of that is the haziness or the cloudiness of some of those beers, which a lot of that's coming from the oats and the yeast strain that we've selected, and the massive amounts of dry hop that are going in these beers. We tend to brew hoppy beers, so I guess that's kind of a line that you could follow as far as like, hey, what kind of wraps all your beer brands together is they all tend to be a little bit on the hoppy side.
So what is Southern Prohibition's like ultimate goal? Like, are they already there? Like, is it make beer that people like and just keep on doing it, or do you have a bigger sort of thing that you're working towards?
Yeah, no, I think we definitely in the beginning we set out with some specific goals, and I feel like you always have to be setting new goals and kind of looking forward.
Yeah.
If not, your brain gets stagnant. So we're constantly pushing it. we want to become more involved with the community and the people around us. And the tap room's kind of allowing us to do that a little bit more because we are a production brewery and we sell a lot of beer outside the state of Mississippi, along with inside the state.
Yeah.
So we continue to want to be, someone that, in the Southeast you look for innovation, quality, consistency, and just kind of the most superior product that we can possibly put out.
I guess then what's your local goal at this point? Is it just specific beers that you want to have made then?
Yeah, that's what we're using the tap room a lot for, is for this kind of experimentation and pushing the envelope a little bit. Being able to try new things on a small batch. As before, we make a batch of beer. If we can only sell it out in, one of the 5 states we distribute in, there's a lot more money involved. There's a lot more risk involved. As far as the tap room is concerned, we can do a little bit smaller batch, get direct feedback from the consumer right there. And so I think the tap room has been instrumental in helping us definitely kind of scratch that creativity itch.
So for all the beer ingredients, do you end up having to get them all from like sources that all this stuff is specifically for beer? Like the malts, you're not just going to go to a farm for just anything.
Yeah, so we live in a day and age where we can kind of handpick the best of the best as far as ingredients are concerned.
But also that there's so many options.
100%. There's things from all over the place. So we use a lot of malts. A lot of our base malt comes from the Midwest here in the U.S. We use German malts, English malts. I even use a malt from South America occasionally. Yeah, that's what's great about nowadays. Hundreds of years ago, it was kind of like, hey, if you brewed beer, you probably had a farm and you were just using whatever was on your farm and you just kind of made do. Fortunate for us now, we can choose really high quality ingredients from all over the place. As far as hops are concerned, most of our hops come from Yakima here in the U.S.
Okay.
Which is in Washington, right outside Seattle. So we actually we buy enough hop that we actually go up. So me and Quimby will go up and handpick hops from the field for next year's
That's awesome.
hops for all our beers. So that's kind of a perk of the job, and it's really awesome. It's also awesome to kind of be on that level with your ingredients, where you're actually kind of like controlling exactly what's going on from that regard. Because we use so much of those hops in so many of our core beers, all that quality is important. So to make the best beer we can possibly make, we want the best ingredients that we can possibly get. New Zealand and Australian hops are extremely popular right now. So 50 years ago, even 10 years ago, it would have been even harder to get those things, and we have access to a lot of those things now, which is great.
Yeah, that's very nice. So thank you for that sneak peek into the life of Southern Prohibition and just all of the background information. But before we break, is there anything you want to tell all of your waiting fans?
Yeah, like I said, we're trying to do more and more events in the tap room. We've got an Oktoberfest coming up. We're going to do it at the end of September. Our Halloween party is always a really good time. It goes really well with kind of some of our can-themed things. And then, we do a really big Christmas party every year. So, we're really big proponents of social media. Our Facebook and Instagram, we're always posting things on there, so you can follow us there. New beers, events, all that kind of stuff is definitely happening right there. Also, a little side note, we're constantly trying to make improvements to the building. We actually are installing a parking lot in the lot next door, so I've always kind of heard people grumble about the lack of parking down here, and that's not just us, that's kind of a downtown in general thing. So we're making parking for everybody, so make it a little bit easier to get in and out down here.
Yeah, one less excuse to not come check it out.
Absolutely. So tap room's open Wednesday through Friday, 5 to 10, Saturday, noon to 10.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah,
it's been
thanks.
a pleasure.
Cheers.
We'll definitely be drinking your beer very soon.
Thank you.
Well, that's the look behind the beer with Southern Prohibition Brewing. A big thank you to Ben Green and all the SoPro staff for making this possible. And I hope you've been inspired to come give them a look. They're located at 301 Mobile Street in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. and you can follow them and find their hours on their website or their Facebook page. So cheers, and thanks for watching.